Well, I'm tempted to say learn to cook. But I won't. You'll hear a lot of people talk about growth mindset. This idea that when faced with challenge, it's possible for a person to see what is happening to them. When faced with difficulty, it's possible for a person to see what is happening to them in different ways. If we see it in a negative light, it becomes self-fulfilling. If we see it in a positive light, that also becomes self-fulfilling. And the skill of interpreting our experience, as hard and difficult as it is sometimes, in a way that leads us to a better place, is something all of us need to have. Can I give you an example?
Sure.
Yeah, it's the best example of this is I have to say, is my brother. I hate my brother. That's not true. I love my brother, right? And in fact, I have a bunch of brothers. I love all my brothers, but I'm talking about my little brother, Paul. And you might have this same thing in your life, but this guy, he got all the looks, and he's charismatic, and he's, successful. Even though he didn't bother to go to college, you know what I mean? He's the kind of, he never did the right thing, but he's really great. I hate my brother, So I love my brother. But everything that ever happened to my brother Paul happened because he had a positive mindset, because he had this skill. I'll give you an example that I always use when I have to think of it. When times are tough for me, I just remember him, and it's inspiring that way. So he's a photographer. He does high-end work for rich people, real artsy. And so he was shooting a wedding for a very wealthy business family, and I can't tell you the name of the business. That wouldn't be appropriate, but you would know this business. And one of the daughters was getting married, and it was like royalty, right? And so for people like you and I, a wedding is a thing that happens on a day. For these kind of people, weddings are huge events where they go for it's like weeks, and people come and it was in Cabo San Lucas, which is this beautiful location at the end of Baja, on the west side of Mexico. It's beautiful. And of course, this family goes in, and they don't just rent a room, right? They sort of whole hotel properties are reserved for this massive kind of event, and of course, my brother, all dashing and cool looking with his staff, they're all down there, and on Monday the men go golfing, and he's photographing this, and then on the Tuesday the women are going to go out on a giant yacht and strategically expose themselves to the sun. They leave early, and they don't tell the photographer. Now look, when you charge what my brother charges, you can't not show up. It doesn't matter if they left early. The money he charges, he should have spies making sure he knows everything that happens. So they show up down at the marina, Paul and his staff, they show up down at the marina at like 10 a.m. and they can see the yacht has left. Now, if that's me, it's over. Because look, this market is all reference driven, and it's a wedding. You can't have a do-over. You're done. If that's me, I go to the bar. It was a good run. I'll think of something else. Not him. No. Not him. He immediately is going to find a way to, right? So he runs down. There's a Mexican water taxi. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a Mexican water taxi. Okay, but the first thing you got to do to get in a Mexican water taxi is wake the guy up, right? So he's like, hey, senor, and, they're trying to communicate, and he's trying to evaluate whether the guy's sober, and, he's pointing to the yacht, and the guy looks up and says, lo siento, and he lays back down to go back to sleep. But as he's laying back down, he says, but there is the drug boat. He says it in Spanish, of course. The drug boat. So my brother looks down, and so little known fact, at the end of the marina in Cabo San Lucas is a twin diesel marlin boat. Marlin are those fish with the long, you know, and when you fish for them, they've got a big chair on the bowsprit chair, and you get up in that chair and they strap you in, and it's this, and the fish leaps out of the way, and there's this badass drug guy with the hat and you know, the whole badass kind of like out of a movie down there with this boat. So my brother goes down and starts throwing $100 bills down. And he says, I've got to catch that. And $100 bills are the international language for desperate need for action. So this guy says, you know, get on, you know, like, you know, whatever. They can't communicate very well, but he's, you know, get on, right? And they get gas and they go out. And to this day, my brother has no idea what he was doing. He says his lesson from this is, you know, when you're trying to catch a boat, it's actually hard because the other guy's moving too, like in James Bond. It takes forever to... He has no idea. As finally they catch this yacht, and by then they're anchored out in these areas where you do the you know, where you put on the you know, you swim and you see the fish and they're laying in the sun, and the bride is probably weeping because there's no pictures, right? And this guy, and they're probably talking about how they're going to end his career. That guy, he didn't show up, and then they look up and they see him. Now what my brother has done at this point is that he's climbed up in the bowsprit chair, and he tells the drug runner, he says, don't go up to the boat. Just keep going around the boat. And now he's sitting in the bowsprit chair, and his guys hand him the long lens, you know, like these. And so so the women look up and they say, oh, look, oh my gosh, he is not an idiot. He is a genius. Of course you don't get on the boat with the women and they're in their bathing suits. That would be inappropriate. No, you get another boat. And you get, and so my brother's rates went up yet again. Do you know what I'm talking about? And so when you talk about growth mindset, people see it as some kind of a theory. But success is a self-fulfilling prophecy. For some people, no matter what happens, they see a victory in what anyone else would see as a tragedy. And that's probably the greatest skill, aside from cooking.